All right, what's your name?
My name's Elisa Krebs.
And what do you do here for the church?
I'm the Congregational Financial Officer.
Okay, well, tell us about this building.
Okay, the cornerstone was laid in 1888. It was the first large building that was built here when the reorganization came back down to Independence, Missouri.
Okay.
So Joseph III brought...
Now we're talking about, just so everybody knows, we're talking about the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
That's correct.
And when you say Joseph III, you're talking about Joseph Smith III.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And of course now we're called the Community of Christ.
Okay.
When Joseph Smith III brought the reorganization back down to Independence, they built a small church, the brick church. They quickly outgrew the church, and they said, we need something larger, and they built Stone Church. And actually, this is a really significant building because since the Latter-day Saints were run out of Missouri to begin with, when we came back to Missouri, then we were basically saying, we're here, we're going to stay, and here's our building to show that we're here to stay. The windows were replaced in the 1970s, and each of the windows tell us a different story of the church.
Well, do it.
We have 3 scriptures, and each window represents one of our scriptures.
These 3 windows you have right there, right?
Actually, I guess the 3 separate windows.
Oh, 3 okay.
So, in fact, why don't we start with this one?
Okay.
That particular window represents the Bible. And you'll see that Christ is in the center of it, looking down to the sleeping centurion and the sleeping legislature, which simply says Jesus rules over the government, Jesus rules over the military. Moses represents the Old Testament. John the Baptist represents the New Testament. The cross in the center is empty because our denomination emphasizes not the passion, but rather that Christ continues to live, walk with us, and dwell with us together.
Okay. All right, I'm here with
Alan Tyree.
And Alan, tell us about the history of the Reorganized Church of the Latter-day Saints.
Well, the church currently is known as the Community of Christ. That name change took place within the past decade or so. And there was reason for that. It better reflects the nature and purpose of the church. Our history begins in a common history with the Latter-day Saint movement and the Mormon Church, except there was a separation of the ways in the 1840s that led to a reorganized effort.
So what fueled that? What was the big kicker?
The main problem with that had to do with who was to succeed the prophet and President Joseph Smith after his death. But it was not only a matter of a choice of his replacement, but also what was the church to practice and teach and believe. The group that went to Salt Lake City is well known for its beliefs and practices, and I don't need to describe those. We never participated in that movement nor in those beliefs. We have stood with the mainstream of Christianity and with Protestantism in general, in that our beliefs through the decades since then have been more closely allied with the beliefs and teachings of most Christian churches.
Now, the breakoff point was where right when Brigham Young went to Salt Lake City. Was that the breakoff, the separation?
That was one of the signs of the separation.
That was one of the signs.
Yeah, because there were a number of events going on at the time. Just simply put, I think we would have to say that there was an isolation of the group that went to Utah. They, in fact, left the United States at that point, because it wasn't yet a part of the territory encompassed by the United States. And there they felt a freedom to do pretty much as they pleased in terms of governance and teachings and practices, not only within the church, but in civil matters as well. Eventually, though, of course, the United States incorporated.
Came in and
That's right. And at that point, there needed to be some accommodations made.
right. So you're saying the separation really came because of a succession of leadership, and so that boiled down to Joseph Smith's heirs, right?
Well, a number of factors came into play. It so happens that Joseph Smith's son, Joseph Smith III, whom he had designated to be his successor on 2 occasions prior to his death, did succeed him as the first president of our church, as separate from the Utah group.
So that was the separation there.
That was a major organizational separation, yes.
Okay.
Now, in the succeeding years, Joseph Smith III, the son of Joseph Smith Jr., who founded the church, had sons who succeeded him in the leadership of the church. He was a man who lived to a very ripe old age, in his 90s. And so he had a succession of sons. We were blessed to have the leadership of a direct descendant of Joseph Smith Jr. until just a few years ago, when we recognized that the person who leads the church doesn't have to have the name
The name Smith.